Them dirty jokes. I knew it. I knew it. I had a conversation this in high school that these are filthy, like cum shot jokes and sex jokes. I always knew it, especially Ariana Grande. So, Quiet on Set, binged all 4 episodes in succession. It was very entertaining, very interesting, entertaining in a morbid way. But one, all the sexual innuendo jokes, I always thought that. And I love all his shows. I thank you, Dan Snyder, for these shows, by the way. I think Drake and Josh is one of the greatest television comedy shows of all time. Zoey 101 was very entertaining. Victorious, iCarly, both entertaining. Very stupid, but entertaining. Sam and Cat, But I love Zoey 101. I loved it, and I love Drake and Josh. Drake and Josh shaped me. It was phenomenal. Didn't watch all that. Didn't watch the 90s stuff as much. I loved Legends of Hidden Temple. You didn't have anything to do with that, did you? So, yeah. Very interesting thing about Dan Snyder being kind of a little narcissist. Putting in some sex jokes in his thing. I always thought that. Especially the thing that got me thinking that. I thought this when I was a kid when I watched this. Was the Goop thing with Zoe and Zoey 101. I was like, that's such a cum shot joke. That so is. And I could see him being, maybe this is funny for the adults. Yeah, I could see him having that mentality of throwing, because like regular show and Adventures of Gumball have like adult jokes in there that a kid wouldn't get. And I could see him having that mentality, and he just doesn't have the wherewithal to realize that's kind of bizarre given the fact that he's in charge of these young teens. So I could see him having that mentality. I could also see him having the perverted mentality of just saying, I want to fuck these teens. And Ariana Grande with the pouring water and stuff thing, that was another thing where I watched it and I was like, this is so sexual innuendo. Same with one thing they didn't show, because there's a lot of sex stuff in Victorious, was Victoria Justice having food made on her belly. But there's a lot of stuff in Victorious that I think is more than any other show. I think Victorious is first place with the most like sex heavy innuendos that they just didn't show. Carly getting the water poured in her mouth thing was funny, and I was like, this stuff only happens to the guys. I mean, not to the guy, to the girls. It rarely happens to the guy. Every now and then it happens to the guy, but 90% of it's just to the girls. So I was like, and a lot of foot stuff. I don't get feet. I'm not a foot fetish guy. The Drake stuff was really heavy. That was a crazy thing to listen to. I think he really made that show talking about his stuff. I thought the writer's room thing was interesting with the women sharing a salary. I felt bad for Drake. It was funny. In Daytona, at the time that Drake went missing in Daytona, and I literally drove around for just 2 minutes looking for him. I was like, I wonder if he's anywhere around me, because I remember seeing this message saying Drake Bell is lost in Daytona. And I was like, oh my god, what if I find Drake? So, fascinating stuff. Terrible what happened though. This guy taking advantage. I totally believe it. This is what Hollywood people do, because they know that these young people have these, like tiger moms on them who want them to become famous. They'll do anything to be famous, and they want that one adult that they think is going to safeguard their career into the future. And when that one adult wants more, then wants to be a little more with you than just your manager or something like that. You feel obligated to, because you don't want to lose the spot, because Hollywood is so fickle like that. Look at the All That cast kids just getting fired out of nowhere, and then they vanish. They don't go anywhere. So yeah, I understand their mentality. I personally, what happened with Drake, like the couching you said happened to me. Ooh, I'm burning that house down. I was like, I'll be fucked a career. I'm burning your house down. So yeah, but I believe it. It puts all the co-stars and stuff that associate these people in a very awkward spot too. Like Josh, it's a very awkward thing. I like that Drake defended Dan Snyder. Only because I'm like, I don't like full-on hit pieces, full-on slander things. So the whole thing slandering Dan Snyder as being annoying and being an overbearing boss. So I do like when somebody's on the defensive, because I think with every good documentary, you need to have 2 sides of things. I don't believe in one-sided documentaries. So that's a slander to me. So overall, highly recommend. It depends to you, if the type of person you are, if it's an easy watch or not. It's an easy watch for me. I could watch this stuff very easily. The things I don't like is when it's just one-sided, but I'm like, okay, it wasn't so egregiously heavy against Dan Snyder. He got to make his quotes in there and say his point of view, text-wise, not verbally. He should have just been on camera. Like, if I was being accused of this stuff, I would call them up and say, interview me. Let me have a word. I would absolutely defend against all the allegations if I think they're untrue. And I feel like they're obviously true, because they weren't accusing him of horrendous stuff. They're accusing him of very believable things. that weren't like so far to the realm that I'm like, I need proof for that. They weren't that to that degree where I'm like, I as a viewer, I'm like, I need evidence of this. Because every now and then someone accuses someone of something so crazy, I'm like, I want evidence before I believe you committed this heinous crime. Just because, not that I don't believe human beings are capable of bad stuff, just because I'm like, if you're making a crime like that, you gotta give me some evidence. But it's very minimal things, not minimal, but minimal like crime-wise, like rubbing shoulders, shared salaries, sexist comments, cum jokes, things that are blatantly obvious. So I'm like, I believe it. So overall, Quiet on Set, good doc. Don't know how to rate documentary, so I'm not going to. Recommend watching it and just binge it. Just binge it. Something to think about. But yeah, Dan Snyder, big fat boy. It's usually just big fat boys who can't get laid who end up all creepy and weird like this.
Prime.